We walked over to one side of the lab, and he said, "By the way, we've discovered a base on the back side of the moon." And I said, "Whose?" "What do you mean, whose?" He said, "Yes, we've discovered a base on the back side of the moon." And at that point, I became frightened, and I was a little terrified, thinking to myself that if anybody walks in the room now, I know we're in jeopardy, we're in trouble, because he shouldn't be giving me this information. I was fascinated by it, but I also knew that he was overstepping a boundary that he shouldn't be stepping over. And then he pulled out one of these mosaics and showed this base, which had geometric shapes. There were towers, there were spherical buildings, there were very tall towers, and things that looked somewhat like radar dishes, but they were large structures. So I didn't say any more to him because I was concerned again that somebody was going to come in at any moment, would catch us having this conversation, and we would be in real trouble. I realized that he was telling me this information because he didn't have anybody else to talk to. So it was rare that someone would do something like this, but this fellow and I were the same rank. I think he was very distressed. He had the same pallor and demeanor as the scientists outside the room. They were just as concerned as he was, and he needed to discuss it with somebody. So that was the end of it right there. I didn't take it any further than that. I just filed it away. But the interesting thing, every day that I went home, I would think to myself, I can't wait to hear about this on the news, And, so I'd turn on the TV and I'd look at the news to see if they're going to announce, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon, being really naive, And of course, here it is 30-some years later, and we still haven't heard about it. Some of the structures are, half a mile. What was really interesting is I'm not sure what the resolution on those photographs were, but I know that we could discern from the satellite photography we were doing at our installation, you could read the license number off a car at that point in time. So I know we had that level of technology available. Whether or not it was on that lunar orbiter, I don't know. And this also always brings to question, in my mind, why we're getting such low resolution on photographs that we receive from Mars and any of these other missions. The resolution of these photographs is very low, when we've had since the early 60s a capability of much higher resolution. So I'm not sure what that's all about. That question always comes up in my mind. If I compare it to what I'm seeing now, because I do have photographs that have artifacts in them that are similar to what I saw, they're massive. Some of the structures are, half a mile in size. So they're huge structures. And they're all different size structures in different photographs.
We've all come to know the powers that be are masters of secrets. Many of you, like myself, may not be aware of the Apollo 20 mission. We were educated on 17 Apollo missions. However, this highly classified joint US-Soviet mission launched in 1976. Its purpose was to explore the far side of the moon and retrieve ancient alien artifacts. The commander of Apollo 20, a William Rutledge, claimed responsibility for releasing previously unseen raw footage to the public via his YouTube channel named Retired AFB. William's video shows part of the two EBEs that were found. A hibernating female alien that the NASA crew is shown studying, that they named Mona Lisa. The following fascinating footage hasn't been seen since Mr. Rutledge removed it from his channel.
the secret Apollo 20 mission and the hidden alien girl. As officially declared by the National Aeronautics Space Administration, or NASA, and by the US government, the last time that man set foot on the moon was December 1972. That was when astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt of the Apollo 17 space program spent a record-breaking 3 days on the surface of our moon. But far from what the public were led to believe, NASA had actually planned 3 more Apollo missions: the Apollo 18, Apollo 19, and Apollo 20. In fact, the American Space Agency had already begun construction and was actually in the latter planning stages when the projects were supposedly axed. Conspiracy theories indicate that the said Apollo missions, with the Apollo 20 in particular, pushed through with its initial plan to explore the polar region of the moon. This is better known as the dark side of the moon. The goal was to further investigate the images that were taken by the earlier Apollo 15 lunar mission, showing what appeared to be ancient artificial structures, a huge, oddly shaped spacecraft, a couple of aliens, and more otherworldly things. What exactly was the secret Apollo 20 mission? Who were the people involved in such project? Is there any proof of its existence? Let's find out. The controversial YouTube video. It all started in 2007 when a number of videos were uploaded to YouTube. A mysterious user named Retired AFB claimed these videos as raw footage taken during the secret Apollo 20 mission. The user was later identified as William Rutledge, a former astronaut who, according to him, was part of the team aboard the Apollo 20 lunar module. According to the user, the said program was apparently a joint effort by the US and former Soviet Union governments. Manned by astronauts coming from the 2 world superpowers, the mission took place in August 1976. The videos were taken on a 16mm film. It shows the command module of the alleged Apollo 20 lunar craft, as well as the aforementioned remnants of an ancient alien civilization. A flyover scene also shows what appears to be a cigar-shaped object, believed to be the long-rumored alien spaceship that got stranded on the moon for 1.5 million years. A surprising discovery. At one point in the video, the Apollo 20 crew was actually seen exploring the interior of the downed spacecraft. This is where they stumbled upon the bodies of 2 human-like aliens, one male, one female. The male alien was dead when found, but its body was well preserved. The female, nicknamed Mona Lisa, was believed to be in a suspended state, not dead, not alive either. She was partially mummified and covered with a thin layer of waxy substance. A closer look on the specimen shows the alien's odd features, like having extra fingers on her hands and the absence of nostrils, What's even weirder was that the female alien appeared to be physically attached to the controls of the spaceship by a device that was connected to her eyelids, nose, and lips. More details emerged. The YouTube video that Rutledge had supposedly uploaded continued to rack up interest around the world, so much so that it finally caught the attention of the press. In an interview with an Italian newspaper, Rutledge further shed light on the EBE, extraterrestrial biological entity, that it was neither dead nor alive, and that it was in some kind of suspended animation. Rutledge revealed that the crew disconnected Mona Lisa from the navigational device that was connected to her body and was brought back to Earth aboard the Apollo 20 module. She was hidden somewhere at a secret location that even he wasn't aware of. The male, on the other hand, was also returned to Earth, where an autopsy was later performed on his lifeless body. Rutledge, who was 78 years old during the interview, went to divulge that they had also recovered some alien technology from the ancient spaceship, of which they later found to be a mothership. As to what happened to the scavenged devices, we can only assume. Perhaps our scientists are working to reverse engineer the technology for practical or military applications. Putting authenticity to the claims according to recent reports, Rutledge is currently living as an expat in Rwanda. Although people in his line of work are sworn to preserve the secrecy of their mission, Rutledge says he no longer feels threatened if such sensitive details come to light for the whole world to know. Obviously, his claims were met with widespread skepticism, especially on the fact that his name is not included on the official lists of NASA or Soviet astronauts. However, at some point in this controversy, Rutledge claimed to have been working with Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonovo in the Apollo 20 mission. Leonovo is a renowned, well-respected Soviet cosmonaut regarded as the first human to conduct a spacewalk in 1965. If you come to think of it, dragging the name of major figures like Leonovo would warrant some backlash, if not from the public, then from the person himself. Unfortunately, the multi-decorated and multi-hyphenated Russian has recently died in October of this year. This would now make it impossible to debunk Rutledge's claims.
While this story is remarkable for so many reasons, it's very interesting to point out how the US and Soviets were working together on the mission. One can't logically ignore the irony in how today, all we hear about is Russia is an enemy of the US. I provide you all now with testimony from another whistleblower. Lieutenant Colonel Ken Johnson provides pictures confirming that we have man-made structures on the moon.
I was with the Grumman Corporation that built the lunar module. So that was my main part. And then after that, I went to work over at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory and caught the astronauts coming back from the moon with the samples and supplies. And we became the director of the Data and Photo Control Department, which meant I had access to the first analysis of the samples, all of the pictures, the film, and et cetera. And because mine are the original pictures right off of the original negatives, first generation. And when people have come to me and taken a look at it, they're flabbergasted because they can see some of the alien bases, some of the things that were on the moon that have been kept secret.
The artifacts on the moon, let's say the structures, are they extraterrestrial? Are they ancient civilizations maybe that break away from Earth?
How about all three? There are some evidence of some ancient ruins, and I have pictures that we've zoomed in and looked at some of the ancient ruins. I've got some fantastic pictures in my archive, and there's a series of craters there that actually shows domes illuminated from the inside. There's over a dozen or more domes inside this one flat area on the moon, and I've got the original pictures that shows it just as clear as it can be. Now, for people that don't know, the Russians got to the moon first before we did, and as their satellites went around, they took pictures on the backside of the moon back to who else is on the moon. I tell everyone, take your hand, turn it palm up, and bring your fingers all together and look at the domes on the top. That's basically the way those 5 domes were arranged, but they blended in somewhat with the rim of the crater Tsiolkovsky. astronomers have come out and said, you know, the moon is an anomaly in itself. It's too big to be going around a planet. It's the perfect size at its orbit. It can totally block out the sun. That's just two of the things. And the other one is for it to maintain the distance from the Earth, it doesn't weigh enough.